a PowerPoint presentation, yeah. There's some actually. Yeah. So you're looking at a range of external factors, not just environmental, that have an effect on business organisations in general, and those will be a range of political, economic, all the pestle analysis signs: political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. So those are the range of external factors that can affect business organisations. So really all you need to do is some slides with an explanation of what political, economic, social, technological, legal and environmental factors face organisations in general, yeah? And then explain why they carry out that pestle analysis. Look at the three-step crisis management procedure and identify the factors which contribute towards environmental damage. Explain how the factors which contribute towards that damage can be minimised, and explain how lack of care of this can reflect on the business's profitability and its reputation. Those are the first bit, and those are the things that will require your slides with some notes to show how you've actually researched that and what you've come up with. And as I've said, on the VLE, there is some material on there which you will be able to access to give you some information. I'll actually quickly back and look at what we've got on there. As an example, I'll just bring this one up. Yeah. So you've got when you've gone into the VLE or the Moodle, yeah, just open up, for instance, this one. Three stages in crisis management, dealing with the situation. Related articles, 4 phases of crisis management, 5 stages of crisis management, plan for safety in construction, how to overcome resistance to change. So this is a handout, basically, looking at what sort of challenges that, or what sort of crisis situations can occur, and identifying challenges and solutions, implement solutions, yeah, and review the results. So that's looking at something as simple. I mean, it's actually showing a fire there, but that is a good example. Every building in the UK, certainly office buildings anyway, are particularly covered by fire regulations, and there are a range of things that you need to do as an employer within an establishment like that to make sure that you don't have a fire. But should one occur, then you need to find out why. And this is the 3 stages in crisis management: how you actually find out what happened, why it happened, did it contravene any of the regulations, and if so, why did it do that, and what you're going to do about it in future. So those 3 steps are basically what you do to look at in any sort of crisis management, whatever it may be, from something as simple as an office fire to something as major as a major oil spill in the sea somewhere, where it takes a long time to assess the damage and find out what you're going to do about it and actually make sure it doesn't happen again. So again, there are lots of, in every industry, there are rules, regulations for a range of situations, and usually when something occurs, unless it's a mechanical breakage or something of that nature, there will be a contravention somewhere of the rules and regulations that has caused it to happen, and it's finding out why that occurred. So crisis management is dealt with fairly strong on this handout here. So again, you've got plenty of material to have a read out there. Let's just close that one down in a minute, and I'll go back to where we go on here. Again, what is PESTLE? A tool for business analysis. So it goes through all what a PESTLE analysis is and what it should do and what it's meant to do. Just actually take that off there because it was spelled wrong. And again, there are certain questions one needs to ask when conducting the analysis. What is the political situation in the country? What are the prevalent economic factors? How much importance does culture have in the market, and what are its determinants? And what technological innovations are likely to pop up that affect the market structure? Those are the current legislation. Is it likely to change? And what are the environmental concerns for the industry? One of the things I can point to as an example is the construction industry. Over the years, the construction industry has been had the worst record for deaths at work due to a whole range of things, from electrocution to falling from heights to slip, trips and falls, to a whole range of things. Now, it's taken literally as long as I've been around, which is an awful long time, to change that round. And when you see a building site today, it looks absolutely nothing like it used to when I can remember them back in the 60s, when they had literally no, now they're usually screened off from the public. If they're gaining any height, they've got nets all around to stop things falling down. And there's been a massive change in the culture, if you like, of safety, because it had to happen. And if you've got, I mean, for instance, now you'll never see anybody on a building site without a hard hat, whether it's actually required or not in that particular situation. It's a rule, so everybody wears one. And they have now into the rule that anybody, doesn't matter whether they're a manager or somebody, a labourer, if they're caught without the hat 3 times, they're off the site. It's as simple as that. Again, these are regulations that have been brought in, and those are just examples I'm giving you from my own experience in that industry, in the engineering and construction industry. Engineering in general was not good, but it was a lot better than construction. And again, over the years, the rules and regulations applying to engineering have changed vastly, so that there have been a huge drop in the amount of deaths due to accident, which is good. But if you can remember things like a lot of things came in, for instance, the Health and Safety at Work Act, which I'm talking about now, only came in 1974. Before that, most people were working to regulations that were put down before the turn of the century, before 1900. So yeah, there are a lot of changes about in those industries. Most of the other ones, most of the other industries have had a similar sort of thing, but on a much smaller scale. So again, it gives you an explanation of political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. So those that handout on there is very useful on that particular quite. I've done crisis management. I've done the PESTLE. Yes, that's the last one on there I want to bring up. Yeah, how environmentalists help manage corporate reputations. And again, you can read through this piece at your leisure, but basically it's looking at how environmentalists, Greenpeace and people like that have had a big effect on corporations by basically harassing them into doing something about things they should have been doing obviously on their own. But again, since the late 80s, large numbers of people in affluent countries have been influenced by a company's reputation for social and environmental responsibility in their purchases. And this is where the difference makes. People will now not buy from unethical or organisations, and that actual group is getting bigger as time goes on. Investments in and choice of employers, in other words, people that would be eminently welcome in that company will not work for them because of their ethical reputation. And again, activist campaigns I've just mentioned through Greenpeace can impact severely on a corporation's reputation and consequently on share value and profits. The bottom line for any business, of course, is the value and profits that they make out of there, and any subject that's going to affect that to any depth anyway, they need to look at and actually think very carefully about before they take those actions. I mentioned oil spillages back in the early part of the century. There was a big oil spill in the not the Persian Gulf, in the Gulf of Mexico. It was BP involved, which is a huge organisation, and very soon after the spillage, the person that was dealing with the spillage and making any comments about it and what was happening was removed very quickly. Somebody else put in place because of the effect that he was having on the reputation of the company. So that's again how organisations can change the image, if you like, of what they're doing. People won't stand in the way of anybody else. They will make sure that it happens. And again, a bit more about what I've just been saying. The reputation is increasingly important to companies, and Buchanan in his marketing, Joe Marconi just references it, notes that the 1990s reputation took on such critical importance to large organisations in terms of their market share that it is now of as much concern to their banks as their marketing plans for their business plans. So yeah, and it goes on to give examples, yeah, here of what happens, yeah. A little bit more extensive, looks at a share price indicator. Companies that have had crises of reputation, such as Exxon and Valdez Oil, Texaco, yeah, various oil spills, but mainly they're highlighting the big ones here because those are the ones that get the headlines, yeah. And then it looks at what they've done about making sure that doesn't happen again. Things like voluntary regulation or reputation management is supported by important relations and regulators who are likely to apply those rules and regulations that interfere with business operations, but they're more likely to negotiate guidelines and voluntary agreements when a company has a good reputation. That's what they don't want really, is for governments then to apply regulations which may then have an aspect of shall I say reduces their weight, increases the cost of their operation without giving any real result from it. So responsible care is a voluntary code set by the chemical industry, and basically it's important for attracting good employees, as I mentioned before. People that have got environmental issues, or not issues, I would say environmental standpoints, will actually say, I won't apply to that company because, yeah. So it does have a wide range of effects, not just on the bottom line, but the ability to hire the right employees or good right employees that they need, the reputation then becomes highly important. Like I said, when you're doing your piece, you can actually put yourself a little chart together for the actual company that you're going to use and do, and say who's involved and what the impact is. Yeah. So those are, and then again, the role of the environmentalists, and it goes on to quite extensive this. Greenpeace, I mentioned earlier, as a change of heart and how they approach something. And it gives a load of examples in there, some of which you can actually study yourself and then make some notes on and use those should you wish to for your merit or distinction. Yeah. So there are lots of, and it actually points to where there is further research material in there that you could actually go on the net and look at as well. So. Yeah, there's a whole host of things here. It covers things like sexual harassment at work and a whole host of things in there, not just the big environmental issues. Yeah. So yeah, that's an extensive document that will cover just about everything on there that I think you'll have or you'll be able to access. Draw that down. Draw that back.
Level 3 course.
I'm going to look at on here the advantage of ethical behaviour in business in there as well. So that can use the two, what can go wrong and the advantage of what you do about it basically is on that one. And there's one on organisational culture. And again, this is due mainly, the culture is mainly due to the way the management operate. There are different types of culture, how they work, learn management, person-centred, forward-looking, task-environmented, role-environmental, backward-looking, and whether they're just a power organisation. Again, the management styles will range from what they call laissez-faire, in other words, they just let them get on with it and just step in when they need to. Others, and that applies actually. That is not a bad style of management. If you are managing highly skilled people that know exactly what they're doing, you don't need to be over their shoulder all the time, poking in. There's another type of management which is person-centered, in which the management or the manager involves the staff at all aspects and listens to their views and so forth. And then, of course, there's the authoritarian role, which is thankfully going out now, where do as I say, not as I do, just get on with it and do as I tell you. But that, again, doesn't work very well anymore. But this gives you a look at those and a way of looking at those and what those are. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, give me that again. I missed that last bit. Sorry. Of the what, sorry? Examples of? I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, right, yes, examples of student work already completed, you mean, yeah? I don't think we've got any on there. I'll check just a second. Right. I've not got any. I only have one on there for one unit on one of the courses, because it's apparent it's a very big unit and it just needs some advice sometimes. But if you stick to the task on there, keep the task in mind all the time. Yeah, you're looking at what you've got to do. All those points on there. Yeah. and then use the material I've just been showing you. That you can go look at the other material as well, of course, on there to actually produce your slides and make some notes about each slide that cover these points down here. Yeah, and that is the first task. That is all that's involved in the first task, nothing else. So, like I said, between now and preferably before next Monday. It doesn't matter if you send it at weekend as well. I'm usually picking stuff up at weekend too from students, so don't worry about when you send it. But put your presentation together and some notes with it, and let me have a look from the material you've got on the VLE, and I will have a look at those and feed that back to you before we meet next Monday, and then we can look at exactly what you've done. Because if you send it to me, I can bring it up on here and show it you and say, yeah, that's okay, that's fine, because, or that needs to have something added to cover this, or that needs to cover something else, and give you some complete feedback on that, and then you can then decide, yeah, okay, I'm going to do the merit. I don't think I'll bother with the distinction, or yes, I will. I'll do both. You can make your mind up from that point after the first feedback, and then we can move on from there. Is that okay? Okay. Have you got any further questions before we close this morning? Okay then. Anyway, like I said to you before, if you've got any specific questions that you're not sure about or can't find something, you've got my number, just give me a text and I'll follow that up. Okay then, right. Thanks for attending, and I will speak to you next Monday. Yeah. Okay. Bye now.